What's up, everyone? This is Attitude2, OutstandingPoker.com. I'm here back for part two of my new series, How to Think Like a Pro. I have continued on the footage here that I recorded a couple weeks ago, 25 cent, 50 cent on Party Poker. So I'm just going to dive right in. I got a lot of good feedback from everyone on the site, which is good. I think the key takeaway for me is to dive a little deeper into some of the stats that I use and how I use them and employ them against various opponents in various situations. Now, before I start, I just want to add a quick caveat to that: is that the stats aren't the be all and end all of how I play. Like, I think like the beginning poker player oftentimes just looks for like a cookie cutter way of like how do I win? Like if this stat is X, what do I do? But it's not as simple as that. The stats are more of just like to augment your overall thinking and sort of confirm what you should be thinking just in general, based on much more so the board texture and the opponent. So I mean, and your cards, of course. So like all three play a pretty big role, as well as like your image and the game flow at the table. Like everything combines to come up with your decision making process. So it's hard to say like if this stat equals this or is greater than this, then do this, because it's not that simple. But you do bring up a good point that stats are definitely important, and I do want to get into how to effectively use them in certain situations. Stats such as like an opponent's continuation bet percentage or fold to continuation bet percentage are pretty interesting and useful in determining whether to continuation bet or not, or like when to double barrel, and basically how that how the stats and how someone responds to certain actions affects their range. So if they're never folding to continuation bets, that means, yeah, you may not want a continuation bet as much, but an alternative strategy could be to still continuation bet and then to double barrel more frequently than you would otherwise against a guy who folds a lot, just because now looking at his turn range, it's a lot weaker because he's not folding as much on the flop. That means that a turn continuation bet might be more profitable. And indeed might be the correct play. So that's something to think about. And some guys don't fold the turn, i.e., all your calling stations out there that everyone always complains about. So how do you combat them? Well, yeah, you could just check fold on a lot of flops unless you hit something, or you could conversely get into like triple barrel mode, because when you notice that the draws all miss on the flop and turn and by the river, they haven't raised, they're likely pretty weak. You could conversely go triple barrel. Now against calling station types, like the worst play that you could do is like a single continuation bet on a drawy flop and then give up. Like that's just burning money. So you need to decide, really have a plan for them at the outset, usually right on the flop, where you can determine how that flop hits their range, what your plan's going to be. Are you potentially going to triple barrel given the right cards? Or are you just going to give up right then? And in a lot of cases, sometimes it's best just to check fold the flop. Sometimes it's best to have a plan to play it aggressively. And then a lot of times it'll come down to, well, how does your hand stack up against the board? And do you have some draws in your hand? Do you have some backdoor draws, a backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw?